Good evening and welcome to our regular governing board meeting for August 10th. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please let the record reflect that all governing board members are in attendance. And if you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then join me in a moment of silence. Could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mm-mm. Oh, there it came. Okay, please record your vote. I think she hit it incorrectly. Okay. Agenda passes unanimously. We will start tonight with our district reports, and we have a report on summer programming for 2021, and that will be Dr. Gail Galligan.
Thank you. President O'Brien, governing board members, Dr. Finch, this evening we bring you an update on Deer Valley's summer programming this past June and July. Our summer programs were divided into 3 areas: enrichment with those programs, intervention, and you see the 2 programs there, and the get ahead or credit or grade recovery and the programs that are there. I'll speak to each one of those this evening. The first one, we'll talk about our enrichment programs. Community education provided a robust number of opportunities for students. The infographic here shows you the summer adventure camps, the days, the number of students. We had 868 students who participated. You can see there were 3 schools that hosted the summer adventure camp, the number of instructors and the number of assistants. We did want to show you the enrollment, so we broke it into 2 different categories: our COVID-19 summers and our pre-COVID-19 summers. You can see that as we had last year 750 children enrolled in our summer adventure camp, that did increase this summer. It is still below the numbers that we had prior to COVID, but we're very encouraged that our parents felt comfortable to bring their children to our summer program. And then you can see some of our Summer Rocks camps and the number of students who participated in each of those. Also, those numbers are a bit down from pre-COVID, but they are actually a bit better than they were last year in 2020. So 33 students in Science Rocks across 2 programs, and 68 students in our theater Rocks. We had a pretty good number for the first time offering it in our Mandarin program, Rocks, and then 108 students in our gifted student Rocks. And then there were 95 students who successfully took driver's education this year. So our community ed program really provided many opportunities for children. We offered our Level Up Math for the second year to our middle school students, and this would have been our incoming 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students. The greatest outcome, and you can see the objectives there, but the greatest outcome for this program is to help students develop a positive belief about their ability to successfully be math-minded and able to do math. It is an amazing program. As you can see from the infographic here, the number of days, we had 2 schools that participated, 91 students with 6 teachers. Everyone that participated, and Dr. Finch was there at times, I was there. The kids were wholly engaged, and whether they were separated into their thinking about math differently. We did build that program around 3 different areas and thinking about math is everywhere. So the first area was in art, and we had a guest teacher for art. And the next one was movement in math. And so all of this was combining math is in the world around us. It's not just on a piece of paper and it's not in math problems. Math is all around us. And the last one was cooking. So we had a chef from our culinary arts program come work with the kids and show the mathematics in cooking. You can see our enrollment last year was 23 students, and it just jumped to 91 students. And that was in just 2 regions. Our goal is to expand that minimally to 3 regions next summer, and then potentially by the following summer across all 5 of our regions. The reason it would take a little bit longer is that our teachers who teach in this actually go through a specific training that is based on Joe Bowler's math mindsets. And we've had multiple teachers go through that last year and are continuing to go through it this year. So our cadre of teachers who will be able to teach here is growing. And this is for children across all grades. Here's just a slide that shows one of the mindset shifts that math is about creativity and making sense. I think if you were to ask many children, is math creative? Do you have to think creatively? Most of them do problems on a piece of paper, and they don't think about that. So one of the goals of this program is really to shift children's thinking about what math is and what it is not. The next one is that mistakes are actually very valuable, and we know that. When we make a mistake riding a bike, we learn what we did, and we are better the next time we try to ride a bike. It's the same thing for mathematics. Making mistakes in math is okay because it helps us learn where we went wrong and what we can do the next time we have a similar problem. And then the last mind shift was everyone can learn math at the highest levels. Again, I don't know about you, but I hear on television, I hear from people that I don't like math. I was never good at math. Math was hard for me. But that's not true. We can all learn math at the highest levels. It's just a matter of how we think about math and how our teachers teach math and how we can go about changing that mindset that I love math and I can do it. And that's what this program does for kids. The next enrichment program we had was for our EL students. This is a new summer program that we offered this year. And we know that for English language learners, the best indicator of their acquired language and cementing skills is demonstrated actually through their writing. Writing is the last set of skills that an EL student will actually acquire. It must be directly taught just like any other language skill, but many times, as we know in our gen ed classes, writing is glanced over as it takes a great deal of time to teach any student, much less our English language learner students, to write proficiently. In order to write proficiently, a student needs to be able to synthesize and apply. Those are those higher order thinking skills at the language skills of listening, speaking, and reading. The overall goal for the 3-week session was to use grade level content to write an informational, opinion, or argumentative 5-paragraph essay differentiated for the student's language level and grade level. We had our first grade students work on a 5-paragraph essay. Now, of course, there are paragraphs for itty-bitty little sentences, but we still worked on that goal. Students were first introduced to key grade level vocabulary, then they viewed a graphic organizer input chart that gave them an overview of the learning that would happen within the unit. From there, they reviewed a pictorial input that zoomed in on one part of that topic, which included key vocabulary again. Students read passages formatted to teach annotation, summarization, and identifying key details. This was at all grade levels, from first grade all the way up. Students took the information from the passages into a mind map to organize their learning, which is the essential learning for that topic. From there, they took the information and put it into a process grid for the entire unit, which allowed them to visually compare topics and learning and help guide the structure of their essays. In this infographic, you can see the number of days. Our programs were really intensely focused and short. 12 days, 82 students, 5 teachers, 2 schools at Mountain Shadows and Barry Goldwater High School. 7 buses provided transportation for students. I wanted to share with you our classified folks who support our programs during the summer are as valuable as our teachers and our administrators. 1,084 meals were served over that amount of time. We did have 2 writing topics and focus areas. For grades 1 through 8, we used science as the foundation of the writing topics and learning. And in 9-12, the topic was career exploration. So the writing focused around careers that students were interested in. And then we did use the 6 GLAD strategies, and GLAD is short for Guided Language Acquisition Design. And so that infographic just gives you a bit more information. Many of the students came into the writers' workshop with enormous gaps in their writing skills, and that is typical also for gen ed students, but it is just a larger gap with our English language learners, especially for our 1st through 3rd grade children. Many could not copy sentences or words from the board. In the class, we supported them in the first few days, going slowly and helping to get everyone to the same starting point. As soon as they were able to figure out how to copy from the board, they were able to move confidently into sharing ideas at their table and taking risks to write something they didn't have to copy. And risk-taking for English language learners is a huge skill. Each grade band group showed incredible growth in their confidence and understanding of what they were learning. 7-year-old children could tell the teacher the 4 stages of a mosquito's life cycle using the correct terminology. 1st graders could describe the habitat of the clownfish and use the word anemone correctly and said it correctly. It was really amazing to see these students who are learning English take on the challenge of grade-level words in 1st through 12th grade. Even though some of the less proficient students, those newly to English, at the early grades did not quite reach their goal of a 5-paragraph essay, the growth with all of them was truly incredible. It is hard to measure the success of the students as a whole because skills were so varied across grade bands. We had new-to-country high school students who spoke very little English and children entering the 1st grade who were orally proficient but could not read or write the English language. What we did see through each of these was that every student grew in their skill set, and their confidence, most importantly, through the 3 weeks grew while they were in this summer program. In the background of this picture, you can see some of the language that the students learned and how the GLAD strategies support students through the visual learning to make meaning of complex ideas. These charts stay up through the entire unit of study in order for students to reference the information and cite their source. It is also used to help demonstrate to struggling learners that smart kids use their resources to be smart, and that information does not just live in your head. You can use your resources that are around you, and that you can always go back and review. And that's something as students and adults we do ourselves. Moving students from dependent to independent learners was one of the goals of this particular program. So now we'll go into intervention. Extended school year was once again provided at Vista Peak School. And you can see what we have quotes here from parents, teachers, paraprofessionals who provided that support for students. You can see that we did have 90 extended school year students attend this year. 100% of them worked on maintenance of skills, which is the whole reason for having extended school year, or ESY. You can see here parent quotes, and our parents are just very thankful that we have offerings for their children during the summer, and this is just one other example of that. I would like to say that we sincerely appreciate our paraprofessionals and bus drivers who helped our teachers at ESY and staff successfully support students through the time period, and this program was about 6 weeks long. We offered Jumpstart intervention again this year, and we are so very happy to be able to offer it in person. So last year it was an online program. This year we had 8 in-person schools with some online offerings at grades 4 through 8. So we did have a bit of both, but the main impetus was in person. As you can see here, we had 13 schools that worked with children for 8 days. And in a bit, I'm going to show you some academic data, and I want you to keep in mind that we met with kids for 8 days, for grades 1 through 3 for 3 hours, and grades 4 through 9, an hour and a half. You can see the number of students that we were very glad to welcome, 1,500, just over 1,500. All 39 of our schools had children attend in Jumpstart this year. We had 84 amazing teachers, and we are so appreciative that they gave some of their time this summer to help us with Jumpstart intervention, and 8 amazing administrators. I again wanted to showcase our support staff who really helped make our programs successful. We had 10,510 meals provided over those 8 days. We had 19 bus routes that ran every day with a total of 10,499 miles over the 8 days. So across all of those campuses, picking up students, our food services and our transportation were a huge part of this summer program. You can see that the way we built this program is every grade level for each content area had 3 specific standards, skills that the kids worked on over those 8 days. And that included a total of 36 different standards. Those were provided to our teachers along with the specific strategies to teach. The teachers themselves built the lessons because this is an intervention program, which means at the end of each day, teachers would go back and look at student data and make adjustments to meet the needs of those individual students the next day. Here's the information that I am so very excited to share with you. What you will see here is the pre and post data for math from 1st through 9th grade. You'll see the pre-test data in green and the post-test data in blue. Now these are average scores for our students across those grade levels, but in 8 days, I think you can see that our students made incredible gains in those 3 standards and skills. This shows it even better. What you'll see here is the percentage of students who showed growth on that particular learning across those skills in just 8 days. I think we can say that the intervention program was pretty successful for our kids who joined us for math. I would be remiss if I didn't share with you reading. So we did have reading literacy skills in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So what you'll see here, based on our Dibbles data, is that 1st grade letter sounds and words read correctly. Our kids knocked it out of the park for 8 days. The teachers, again, this was intervention, which meant that they worked with students on those specific skills, used formative assessment, made adjustments for the next day, and continued on. 2nd grade had pretty good scores. You'll see that words read correctly. I had just under 53% gains. 2nd grade oral fluency was an area that was hard, but we still had almost 40% of our students show gains in just those 8 days. And in 3rd grade, words read correctly was a pretty even split, but they, again, knocked it out of the park in our oral reading fluency. So at the end of 8 days of intense focused intervention, our Jumpstart students are far better prepared entering this school year than they would have been without that opportunity. This is just one quote from a parent. Our administrators and teachers had multiple parents email them and send their appreciation and thanks. This one was just one that had a child that was very reticent about learning and just fell in love with learning here. Next, we'll go to our Get Ahead, Credit, and Grade Recovery courses. The first one is our high school course extension. This is the first year that all 5 of our high schools offered course extension at the end of the 2nd semester to students who had not successfully passed identified courses. They identified students who met a specific grade criteria to participate in course extension for either the 1st or 2nd week of the summer break. As you can see here, each of the high schools had great success with helping students recapture lost credits. We will offer course extension at the end of the 1st semester this year and again at the end of the 2nd semester this year. When you take a look at the number of students who participated, and we didn't have all of the credits from all of the schools, and we'll get that information and include it in another Friday update, but you can see Mountain Ridge students recaptured 158 credits, Barry Goldwater 49 credits, Deer Valley High School between their course extension and accelerate, 190 students recaptured credit. So the 2 weeks that our teachers worked with students just to ensure that the skills they had missed or were not able to show that they knew and were able to do were able to be met and assessed, this was a true celebration. I do want to celebrate Aspire. They had both our middle school summer school program and our summer high school online program. And you can see here that for our middle school program, we had 70 students who completed successfully and 56 total promotions. And again, this program is for students who had not successfully been promoted or reassigned to the next grade level. So pretty good here too, with an 80% passing rate for our middle school students who participated in this. Our online high school program was just as robust as any other year. We had approximately 970 students engage in those online courses. We had 86 unique courses offered, and here's a cool thing. This is a huge number. 1,317 credits were earned by students participating in our online high school. Having that opportunity for students gives them both the ability to open up their schedule the following year and add courses that they may be interested in or recapturing credit they may have lost, helping keeping all of them on their progress for graduation. And then the last program that I'm going to share with you is our DVUSD Pathways course, which is our afternoon evening program. It did run in mostly the afternoon in our summer program, but we wanted to show you here, and you can see in the graph the numbers of students that participated, and we wanted to give you some trend data based on where we were in 2019, 2020, 2021. You can see that specifically for this school year, we had over 300 students participate, 36 courses were offered, and 580 credits were earned by our students participating in Pathways. We also offered this year Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry Honors, and we are very happy to offer that through Pathways, which typically Pathways is our credit recovery course, although it does have children who participate because they want to get ahead and open up their schedule during the school year. But you can see here for those two honors courses, we did have 11 middle school campuses represented with students. 16 students participated in Algebra 1, 2 honors, and 37 students participated in our Geometry honors course. And with that, I just want to share that you can tell that we were very busy this past summer offering programs for students that spanned all grade levels and interests, with both academic and enrichment programs offered. Overall, approximately 4,408, give or take a few, students took advantage of DVUSD's summer programs this past year. We could not have accomplished a summer of such amazing opportunities for students and families without each of the dedicated teachers and program administrators and host campuses who made each summer offering possible. Also, as important as I've stated before, we want to give a huge shout out to our classified staff, including our food services folks, our bus drivers, our custodians, and the community ed lead instructors and assistants for their service to students this summer. We truly do have extraordinary teachers and staff in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Galligan. Do we have any questions, board members? Mrs. Paperman?
I am amazed watching the presentation. Teacher is just amazing that our Deer Valley students, summer curriculum is it's geared for them to learning and growth. Yes, one of the questions I have is the summer program free to all students or tuition pay?
President O'Brien and Ms. Paperman, the high school online course is a fee-based course, and it always has been, and it was again this year. Every other program was non-tuition, non-fee based.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Reed?
I just wanted to say thank you and thank you to our classified staff who worked so hard to support all of the different programs that we had. We know that we couldn't do it without them, and especially our bus drivers and our food service workers who were working extra hard to meet the needs of our kids in our community. Just two quick little comment stories for you, Dr. Galligan. I happened to mention to my fourth grader that there was math over the summer, and he looked at me shocked and said, "Why didn't you sign me up?" And I said, "Well, I didn't think you wanted to go to school." He goes, "I love math. That sounded like so much fun. I would have loved to go." And I said, "Well, you're sold. You're going next year." So you'll have a Reed kid enrolled. And then the second, just I think I shared with you, but I wanted to share it with the rest of the teachers who might be listening in. I was able to share our summer programming with a high schooler who I help support and who's close to our family. And because we were offering some of those programs for free, he was able to take advantage of it so he could have room in his schedule to complete the CNA program this year. And he's self-supporting himself. So this was a huge thing for him, so he could work full-time while he was going to school and cover all of his needs. So thank you so much for making ways for our students that might be non-traditional. We appreciate it.
Mrs. Fisher?
I've always loved the summer program, especially the ESA. Now, I know that is funded because of the ESA, because they have IEPs. And we have the classes that they can sign up. We've had that. That's how my daughter graduated a year early. But, and I'm assuming we used ESSER funds to pay for some of these programs. Is that correct?
President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, that would be correct.
Okay. Moving forward, do we have a plan to ensure that we do have some more funds? Or can we, I mean, I know that ESSER 3 can go out a ways. How, we need to get the kids caught up, anyone who's behind, and just enhance the education. It's really wonderful what you all have done over the summer. But do we have a plan on how we can sustain that, and for how long we can sustain it, so that we kind of know we're at least catching the ones who maybe have fallen through and get them caught up?
President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, our goal is to accelerate learning, and we were just meeting actually this afternoon, and our intent is to offer very similar and expanded programming in the summer in the 22 school year, the 23 school year, and in June of the 24 school year. That's still in the plans, but we believe our ESSER funds will allow us to provide these types of accelerating student learning over those 3 summers.
Mrs. Ordway?
All questions were answered. I knew we were going to continue this. We'll be getting some data possibly at the end of the first semester to see where we sit with the children that took these classes. Make sure that we're keeping up.
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, specifically, we will do that with Jumpstart students, and then we will also pull information for our EL learners and the Math Level Up. Remember, those two were more enrichment, whereas the Jumpstart was an intervention program specific to academics.
Well, thank you. Excellent job for the students.
Thank you so much, Dr. Galligan. And I do all my questions got answered because, of course, my wonderful board members asked them first. But I do want to, again, echo the thanks to all of the staff from Deer Valley that helped make this possible, because obviously we need our teachers in the classroom, but without our bus drivers and food service workers and custodians and everyone else, the administrators. So thank you for helping to provide these extraordinary learning opportunities to our students. Alrighty, we will move on to call to the public.
Okay, so the board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out the card, list name, address, topic, and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes, and this evening we have 10 speakers, so that would be 3 minutes each. If necessary to accommodate speakers within the 30 minutes, the president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona open meeting law, the board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. President O'Brien, did you want to remind everyone about specific names?
Yes, when you make your comments, please make sure you do not say any staff's names specifically. So if the first speaker would step up to the microphone.
Okay, I do have the first speaker as Ms. Portwood, but you did say that you wanted to speak at the agenda item. Do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait until 6C comes up?
No,
Okay.
Okay,
Just wanted to check.
we'll
and
come
make
back to
sure.
you then.
So next would, if we could get in line, Dr. Sandra McGowan. Larry, you're after your wife. I guess she handed hers in first. Erin Getney and Brett Rosenbaum. And then we'll start with the next group.
Okay, please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
I am Dr. Sandra McCown.
Can you step a little bit closer to the microphone? Is that possible?
I am Dr. Sandra McCown. ARS 15102 provides parents the opportunity to preview all instructional materials. ARS 15102 explains the role of the governing board in this process. On July the 12th, we submitted a request to preview all instructional material for 6th and 8th grade curriculum. On July 26th, we attended a meeting at Diamond Canyon. We received 6th and 8th grade instructional standards, language arts textbooks, and novels. We received the approved list of ELA materials. We were told that we were required to check Canvas each Monday morning to preview the science and social studies resources that would be used. We did this on Monday. Neil watched videos about archaeology, and Audrey copied 4 definitions about feudalism from the teacher. Then Audrey was required to cut and paste information from ducksters.com and worldhistory.org to complete her assignment. The 8th grade DVUSD textbook, Discovering Our Past, History of the U.S., was not referenced. Do you know what Ducksters is? Ducksters is wholly owned by Technological Solutions Incorporated. Jeff Kinney, the author of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, is worth over $110 million. He made his fortune selling advertisements on Ducksters and the sale of his books. Note, Ducksters, wholly owned by TSI, makes no claims as to the accuracy of their information on our websites. All information, data, software, services used from this website are used at the owner's own risk. We do not provide or claim to provide any professional advice on this website. I visited Duckster's website and researched CRT, anti-fascism, woke, BLM, and racial topics. Ads popped up for each search. Ads marketed the user to buy a handbook on becoming an anti-fascist. I didn't buy that handbook. I received an email from the assistant principal at Diamond Canyon on Friday and was told to preview all social studies materials through Canvas. I forwarded this message to each governing board member and curriculum department. On Monday, I finally received an email identifying the board-approved textbooks for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade studies. It is McGraw-Hill. The title is Discovering Our Past, A History of the World. 8th grade title, Discovering Our Past, A History of the United States. I was informed I can access these textbooks through DVUSD through a program called Clever. Obviously, I'm not. I never got there. Did the governing board approve these textbooks? Then those are the DVUSD resources that are approved to teach social studies. Were supplemental materials approved? Did the governing
Thank you for your comments. Please state your name for the record and then your time will begin.
My name is Larry McCown. ARS 15102 requires that DVUSD has procedures by which parents may learn about the entire course of study for their children and review learning materials, including the source of any supplemental educational materials. I can obtain these materials 10 days after I request them, and I can either preview them and I can opt out of them. However, I've been told that I can only get these materials on Monday in Canvas. In fact, the resources are uploaded or identified in Canvas on Monday. I won't have the opportunity to preview the materials. And my point is, I need these materials in advance so we can preview them and approve them. I forwarded you all some questions from an assignment our granddaughter got last year about hatred that she completed last year. And some of the questions were, have we seen hatred prior to 2021? Answer: segregation, slavery, racism, politics. Other questions: have you felt hatred? Is hating another person a learned behavior? What is the source? My question is, what is the source of the instructional resource for these questions and answers? Is it this the goal of CRT? Matter of fact, this is really just misinformation that's being pushed at us. Slavery, segregation, racism, and politics were not caused by hatred. The point is, teachers are not qualified to discuss hatred, and they have no right to teach their values. We're concerned that the principal of Diamond Canyon can approve books and resources for the teachers. A teacher completes a DVUSD novel submission form, then the principal can approve the novel. Our question is the principal on this board, on the governing board? If she's not, then according to ARS 15102, how can she approve the books or the supplemental materials? As a matter of fact, we have to ask, did the governing board approve the book The Refugee, the book Chains, the book Bronze Bow? I don't think you did, but the principal did. Possibly you should review all the materials that have been submitted by teachers and approved by principals. We just need a process in place here. Because ARS 15102 holds you responsible, please put a system in place to ensure the materials approved by the governing board are utilized to teach our children. Other materials cannot be used unless they've been provided to us and approved by us. As you know, Governor Ducey signed House Bill 2906 prohibiting the teaching of HCRT in Arizona. The 8th grade Arizona standard, citizenship and civic engagement in today's society is an area that must be taught using DVUSD's governing board approved materials. The 8th grade approved text is McGraw's.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker, stand forward.
My name is Erin Getting. I'm a parent of students at Highland Lakes, and I'm here to speak on behalf of parents who are disturbed by the lack of leadership that this board has shown regarding mitigation of efforts for COVID-19 and the poor boilerplate non-response provided to other friends as well as to me. It's telling that last year's slogan was Return to Learning, and this year's slogan is Remain in School. It's also telling that the messaging received from multiple administrators and teachers is that the goal is to make things like pre-COVID days. If the district's goal is to have kids remain in school, why is the district taking no steps to ensure that this happens? Instead of mitigation, the messaging on your campuses is that everything is back to normal. This is not going to magically disappear, and this school year is going to be massively stunted because so many kids are going to be in and out of school. As of today, according to Maricopa County, the positivity rate is 16%, which is deemed highly transmissible. The latest numbers from Arizona Department of Health show that 27% of new cases in Arizona are for people under the age of 20. This is only going to get worse. According to Steve Irvin of ABC 15, Avondale has quarantined 14 classrooms with over 400 students and staff are out. If you do nothing to help mitigate this, you will be looking at the same thing. This district is not showing any leadership whatsoever in helping to prevent the spread of COVID. In fact, the inaction is detrimental to the health of these kids and their families. The fact that the COVID dashboard is only updated monthly is appalling and smacks of trying to obstruct valuable information from parents. Children are already being told on or before the 7th day of school that they may have been exposed and should quarantine. This is only going to get worse as the younger kids who can't be vaccinated or kids whose parents won't vaccinate are infected as cases continue to spike. Your job is to educate and protect the children within the district, and I can't believe that you are engaging in political posturing because you clearly don't want to take mitigation steps recommended by the CDC. You lack the character that you claim students should show at school and in life. School should be a place where kids can feel safe, and it is far from safe with the fact that literally nothing is being done. Step up and protect the children of this district. Stand up to the governor and require masks.
Thank you. Next.
Carrie Bieber, Becky Smith, and Rosemary Spalding.
Hello, my name is Carrie Bieber. I want to thank the board for letting me speak before you today. My concern is with kinder arrival procedures. My daughter on Friday was scared to leave me at the sign, which reads, "Stop, no parents beyond this point." I explained to her that I could not walk her to her classroom as she had requested me doing in tears. At that time, another staff member approached my daughter, took her by the arm, asked me what class she belonged in which I informed her. She took my daughter, crying, by the arm to her class. I am deeply disturbed that I cannot take my kindergarten student, a 5-year-old, to her class where she has never been before. She's never been in school. She was not in preschool. I am requesting that you take into consideration that these students do not understand why their parents cannot walk them to school. Neither does your staff. When asked why this was going on, I was told by the teacher it was due to COVID restrictions. However, I was then told by the principal that these procedures have been in place prior to COVID. If I cannot explain to my daughter why these procedures are in place, and your staff cannot explain to me why they're in place, why should I honor them and not walk my student to her classroom? The sign in which I can stop at does not allow me to see that my daughter has made it into her classroom safely. On Friday after this incident, she cried all weekend about not wanting to return to school. When asked why, she noted that she was scared when the teacher grabbed her by the arm. No student should have to feel that way. Please take into consideration that at a kindergarten level, students are not capable of walking themselves to their classrooms. They are scared. COVID hysteria is scaring them. So I hope you take into consideration what I've said today. Also, COVID is not going anywhere. The flu and other cold viruses are not going anywhere. If this is because of COVID, it needs to stop. Also, we should be able to volunteer in our students' classrooms and observe now, not in the second quarter. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to. I just wanted to, real quick, Brent, I called you in the first part, but I didn't call you the second part, so I'm going to call you after. I didn't forget about you. Sorry.
Next speaker, please state your name for the record, and then your time will start.
My name is Becky Smith. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for supporting our children to breathe freely, smile at their friends, and see their teachers' faces. Many teachers that I've personally talked to have expressed the huge difference in this year versus last year in their children's happiness and overall climate at school, and are actually loving it. I know there are some people pushing to mandate masks again, and this is very concerning. Not only will this have a huge social and emotional impact on our kids, and as we all know, suicide rates were high, but kids are just beginning to feel normal again, and you can clearly see that that is not what the majority wants. If you visit schools, I know teachers at Las Brisas, they said about 8 to 10 teachers on whole campus wear masks, and maybe estimated 12% of students. Sierra Verde, 2 staff members are wearing masks and very few students. So if you guys go and visit your schools, you will see that the majority is silently speaking. They're not here because they don't want the backlash, but they are silently speaking by going to school and making the choice that we are given as Americans to not wear a mask. This data is the staff and the families that you're supposed to serve and support. So I hope that you look at that seriously. We can go round and round on the effectiveness of masks, but ultimately it's a choice. And we live in America. That should be a choice. Vaccine should always be a choice. If you are unaware of the name Patrick King from Alberta, Canada, you need to look it up. To summarize, he was being fined and challenged by the court for violating protocols. He subpoenaed the court to prove that they have isolated the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and they could not prove this to him, so his case was immediately dropped. And now all testing, masking, quarantining, and other mitigations in Alberta are coming to an end because they could not prove that. I don't know why this hasn't changed how we function worldwide. It's beyond me. There are many doctors who have been attending board meetings around our country. One of those is Dr. Dan Stock from Indiana. He's an immunologist, and he states, like the common cold or flu, COVID will never go away because it is a coronavirus. There's nothing you can do with a mask or a vaccine. It's going to be something we learn to live with, just like the cold or the flu. So why aren't people listening to individual doctors rather than the giant money and power-hungry entities that keep changing their advice every few weeks? We need to stop living in fear and start moving forward as a country. We have also become divided and mean, and this is sad, including teachers. You guys have a 5th grade teacher who decided to thank and give awards to the kids who are wearing masks in his class. That is disgusting, discriminatory, and downright bullying. I would expect a teacher to keep their thoughts, whether they're pro or against masks or vaccines, to themselves and simply teach their subject matter. These blatant pushes of personal or political opinion need to be dealt with disciplinary action. Kids are not supposed to be bullied, and absolutely not by their teachers.
Thank you for your comments. Please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
Hi, my name is Rose Spalding, and I just want to remind you of the affidavits that we served you that state that you can't segregate our children, you can't quarantine our children, you can't mask our children, you can't CTR, SEL, or any other sex education our children without our permission. And if we are aware of this, we will be taking you to mediation, and that's $30,000 per case. So if you want to continue to do what you're doing and take our children and teach them things that they shouldn't be being taught in the school, then we will make sure that we take further action against you and take you to mediation so that we can actually get charged for what you're doing.
Brent Rosenbaum. Let's see. I can't read that. What is that? Rachel? Yeah. Rachel White and Rachel Stewart, I think. Is that right? Yes, it is.
Please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
Brent Rosenbaum. So I had a whole thing written up about the amount of disinformation that's being shared in here about COVID. So COVID is real. 600,000 Americans have died of COVID, and that is far and above what happens with the flu. No, that is accurate. Go tell that to the
Please address your comments to the board.
So we need to actually protect our students. There are 43,000 kids in the Deer Valley district. Over half of them, I know how many kids, it's online. There are 43,000 kids in Deer Valley District. Half of them are not allowed to get a vaccine. That means, and then the other half are not enabled themselves and empowered themselves to go get the vaccine if they want to, which means that actually we have likely 75% of the students, over 30,000 kids that you guys are responsible for, that are at risk. And we're in here saying, I just heard that that the people not wearing masks are not the ones in here. The people yelling at me and the loudest voices are the ones that are spreading disinformation in here. So let's just be clear. We should be masking our students because
Please
it
let
is
him
not,
speak.
the mask does not protect the person wearing it. It protects the people around them. So this is a public safety measure. It is a public safety measure, and it is just like drunk driving. We have a law against drunk driving, not because we care about the person driving drunk, but because of all the people they may injure.
Sir, you need to stop speaking or leave.
Please let him speak. Everyone else
Please
got to
cont-
speak
Can I have my
uninterrupted.
extra time
You will
since I'm
get,
being interrupted?
yes, you will get your time.
So let me go on to critical race theory. I have a feeling the people speaking of it do not know what it is. Critical race theory is a legal theory that says the laws of the United States were put in place, which is a fact, during segregation or slavery. And as a result, there is a history and an embedded unfairness in our legal system that impacts people and minorities today. That is the reality of what critical race theory is. What I'm hearing people accuse our teachers who are doing the best they can to educate our kids to be good, upstanding citizens, to look beyond color, but also to understand that people of color have faced things that me as a white guy have not faced. That's okay. That's good. Our kids should have empathy for others. And it's absurd that a bunch of people who haven't faced that, whatever challenges I've faced, the one thing I have not faced is being black or being a woman or many other things. And that's okay. I can understand that people have faced other challenges that I haven't faced. That does not discredit the hard work or anything that I've earned. So just in conclusion, we should take care of our kids. We should stand up to Doug Ducey and the people who are spreading misinformation.
Hey, he didn't, you guys need to stop. Please finish your comments. Please finish your comments, sir.
And I think my point is proven that the loudest voices are the people lying and spreading misinformation that they heard on Facebook memes.
She can go too.
When I was in the Air Force and served this country.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your comments.
All right, so maybe we could stop talking.
Sir, thank you for your comments.
Who are we looking for now? Was he the last one?
Sir, please, thank you for your comments. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Are you ready? We are. Go ahead.
Okay, just as a reminder before you begin speaking, this person has signed up for public comments. They have 3 minutes. Please do not interrupt them. Everybody that signs up gets their 3 minutes. We want to listen to them. If you would like to speak and address the board, please do so by coming to the meeting prior to 7 o'clock and filling out the appropriate form and turning it into our lovely board secretary, Mrs. Taylor. Otherwise, please do not interrupt our speakers. Thank you. Please state your name for the record and then your time will begin.
My name is Rachel White. I wanted to thank you guys for being here and letting us speak. Last time I was here, I was wearing a mask, so I think that things are improving, and I appreciate being able to talk. Something struck me. I didn't want to speak. My heart beats out of my shirt, but my son has a friend at school that's so afraid of COVID. They wear their mask all day at school and at home. They sleep in a mask and wake up with panic attacks when they wake up and it's not on their face. This child's parents are bewildered and have started to seek counseling for their child. That's now the panic attacks are happening more frequently. The tragedy of this story is I feel like for the powers that be, this is kind of a mission accomplished scenario. And I'm not, it may not be applicable to all of you, but certainly worth noting. Kids are very vulnerable to adult leadership. It seems to be the driving force sometimes as to why their rights are singled out and attacked. How do I make sense of this to my son? He comes with me with so many questions, and I don't want to deflate my idea of freedom and the American dream. So, wishing that his education revolved just around the 3 R's, I have to help him reconcile. He learns that the adults he interacts with at school care about him very, very much, but most of their bosses don't. He learns that wearing masks is mostly about control and power, unless you're in an operating room and in a doctor's office, and it's not really about safety at school. He also learns that he has to be very careful to trust our government because they're allowed to lie to him, and the grown-ups let them lie. He's learned that manipulation means, or what manipulation means, what brainwashing means. Also, the importance of voting. So there's an upside. He said last year during the school year that we should pray for the bosses and ask Jesus to help them tell the truth. I'm full of sin. I'm not virtue signaling. It it made me cry. It kind of still does talking about it, but it was totally his idea. Every night we have prayed for you guys. We pray for the leadership in this country and for the parents, that we continue to act and conduct ourselves with our kids' best interests at heart. He's got a lot of faith in you guys. He has a lot of faith in his school. We love Stetson Hills. And we do. We continue to pray every day. He also prays every night for his friend to not be scared anymore so his friend won't have to cough so much in the mask that they wear. And we'll keep praying.
Thank you so much for your comments and prayers. Please state your name for the record and your time will begin.
Hi, my name is Rachel Stewart. I have a child at Highland Lakes and Greenbrier. I want to thank the board. I know it's a volunteer position. It's a long appointment, and I know that you get difficulty from either side and from parents in trying to make everybody happy. So my question is, my husband and I are fairly new to public school in the Deer Valley District, and trying to be more involved, especially since last year. There's been a lot of questions that have come up that we don't really know the answers to. So my question for the board is really on guidance, how parents can make comments, input, answer questions for items that are discussed at the meetings that are on the agenda items for the meetings. I understand that there is a lot covered in the meetings. This is my second one that I've been to, and I've listened to 2 more online. And that being an involved parent is really what our children need, obviously, so that we can make an impact on their education and make sure that they're getting what they need. But my question for you is, how can a parent get involved in some of the discussions on things that are discussed, prior, as far as some of the agenda items that we feel that we would like to get more information on, or discussions on items that are on the subject matter. The construction of the Innovation Center project for the online schools. I guess I question on why we need a building for the online students to go to when they choose to be online and not actually go to a school. I know this was started discussion in November of last year. So that is obviously, I know it's being voted on next board meeting. The Arizona School Board Association 2022 political agenda. There are some concerning items that are put in the agenda. I'm curious on how those came about. I want to believe that some of those are existing And there are some additional items in red that were put in there. But how as parents, because I know it's being voted on next, the next meeting, but how can we put our input on that? Because there's a lot, there are several items in there that I feel are concerning that are directly affecting the students. So I want to thank you. I know it's been a difficult, year for everybody, and we just want what's best for our students and our kids. Thank you.
Is that all of our speakers, except for the one at the
Yes.
agenda item? Okay.
So I'm going to move to.
Thank you. Oh, just one second. Thank you for your comments, and we will have someone try to address your questions, Mrs. Stewart, and get back to you via email. Okay? Thank
Ms.
you.
O'Brien, I would like to request that maybe we have a, I don't know, study session or a public session with our community to discuss when the classroom plans are available and the supplemental materials. I know that we've heard from Ms. McGowan and her family several times over the last few years. And I just want, I mean, we can't respond to them in public comments, but I just think it would be a good idea if we had a discussion as a board in public where people can get the information for what they need. And then I also wanted to know that I would like for us to possibly have some type of site or, I mean, I've mentioned it before, but something where we are getting the information, maybe a feedback. There's parent groups that do their own talking behind locked sites, but we don't really have anything where our parents can weigh in, other than when they email us directly, because we can't talk to each other, and I think a lot of them don't understand that we can't talk to each other outside of here. So I'm just asking that we perhaps in the future look for an alternative or a way we could have that service for our parents.
Okay, I'll have Mrs. Taylor follow up with you on that idea so we can get further clarification. Mrs. Reed?
So last last board meeting, when the McCowns were here and they spoke, I had made a request that we were able to do a study session on what Mrs. Fisher mentioned regarding literature adoption and how that happens, go over textbook and curriculum adoption again. We can go through the process for committees and all of that. So parents who are just joining the district or who are more actively engaged last year and this year have that information readily available. So if we could.
Yes, I believe that we talked about getting that scheduled here in the next 2 or 3 board meetings, given what we have all planned out. So we will follow back up. Yep. Okay. A motion.
Ready to move?
Yes.
I would make a motion that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5A through 5O.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is that a unanimous vote, Mrs. Taylor?
If I just hit abstain, can I tell you verbally what it is in favor? That's the only way I know to make it go off. Okay, do that. Because it's locked. Go ahead and mark it on.
Was that an aye? Motion passes unanimously. No problem. Appreciate it. Item 6A, Mrs.
All
Ordway.
right, I'll make a motion that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Fisher?
Again, we have not had an opportunity to have a meeting, and I know it's just been a short time, but this addenda is virtually all district office. And I'm,
Sorry, could you answer that? What did you say?
Ms. Fisher knows that that's where it's coded. That doesn't necessarily mean it comes from my office.
no,
Where it's
I'm not
coded.
saying it comes from your office, Dr.
Right,
Finch.
right.
I said the district office.
Yeah, that's where I
and-
work.
No, but sorry, could you clarify, Mrs. Fisher?
Right. So when I look at something that's happening at a school and we see that it's coded to the school, generally it's something that's at the school. Now, when it's coded at the district office, it may be that that person may be at the school, but it's an agenda for something that's at the district office. We have not had the discussion of what some of this means. Some of it we know. Obviously, we know if it's a football coach, he's coaching football somewhere. It is what it is. We don't have that clarity when we see a lot of them that are at the DO, and I am just concerned that every single addenda that we see is very district office heavy or DO heavy. And I am concerned that we are not, our principals are awesome. They are so smart. They can definitely manage their sites. So I'm concerned, have we cut funding to them so that's why we're doing it to the DO? They're not getting the additional funding. We had that happen in the past, was not during your time here, Dr. Finch. But so without having that background and knowledge, I'm just concerned that we have so much coded this way.
So, Mr. Miglerino, may I ask a question regarding, I'm looking at the chart that you provide us that is, and maybe it's not you. Is it Mrs. Mock? Sorry, I always ask the wrong person. Is it you, Mrs. Mock? For coding for the budget?
If I can defer to her, that's perfect.
Well, I always ask the wrong person, and then you guys defer to whoever's the right person. So I'm just going to say, Mrs. Mock or Mr. Miglerino, when we have like a Title I coordinator on here, is that a campus-specific position, but is paid out of additional funds that come from district office?
The answer to that could be yes.
Okay.
Or it could be coded at the school level. Title budgets, there's a lot of that comes directly from the school level, and the school principals work directly with our grant program manager to develop their plans and determine what supports they need at their school, and that determines what addenda that are brought forward on their behalf.
Okay, and then another funding source I see here is community schools, Deer Valley online program I've developed, right? So again, is that, and those are from Aspire, CT internships. There's a variety of different addenda positions there.
President O'Brien?
Yes.
Those are part of the school, Aspire. So those are the part-time teachers who teach at high school in Aspire.
Okay, so again, they're attached to a school, but their funding is coming from district office, and or from a district line item. Can you help us understand that, Mrs. Mock?
President O'Brien, absolutely. It is a combination, and part of what you're seeing is part of the growth of Aspire over the last 2 years. Previously, most of the students who were attending Aspire were obviously high school. We had not extended to the kindergarten through 6th grade as we did last year. And most of them most of the enrollments were for credit advancement or credit recovery. And so when you see community schools fund 520, means that most of those were then paid by the tuition paid by those students to enroll in those courses during the school year or during the summer. And we are working on, this year we worked with Human Resources to make sure that there was a specific cost center specifically for Aspire to place their full-time teachers in addition to these high school teachers. And there's going to be a little bit of, if you look at, there's a little bit of both. There are teachers who are funded and coded full-time to the school. And then there are those teachers who are teaching those course recovery or credit advancement courses, and students are still paying tuition for those. And so we first go to that tuition fund to fund those teachers as opposed to district directly. So it's a little bit of both, but anytime you see that addenda, it's typically going to be those tuitioned kiddos, and so we're charging that tuition fund.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that additional information. So having said that, I do know that you did request some additional a work study. I also confuse these two, Mrs. Fisher, and I believe that's also coming up in the calendar in the next couple of meetings. So if there are no more questions or comments, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-1.
All right, moving on to 6B, I would motion that the governing board approve all employee out-of-state travel per governing board policy GCCE.
I second.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay.
No, I've got that under control.
So do we have, sorry,
I'll
was
vote
that did you vote aye or nay? I'm sorry.
I'll vote aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Item 6C, please.
Okay, this is where
We're going to have a public comment after we do the motion.
right, I'm going to make a motion that the governing board approve professional travel for superintendent to attend AASA National Conference on Education in Nashville, Tennessee, February 15th through the 19th, 2022.
I second.
Okay.
Okay,
and
we have a
I think,
speaker.
Marcia, this is your agenda item.
Please state your name for the record, then your time will begin. Hold on one second. Let us get that. She was here for the admonishment originally. Okay, awesome. State your name.
Hello, my name is Marcia Portwood, and I just want to thank you all. I know that what you do here is a volunteer position. Many people think you get paid and you don't. So I appreciate the work that you do on behalf of our kids, and I hope that you will listen to what I have to say. The reason I'm speaking against the approval of professional travel for the superintendent at this conference, it is by the AASA School Superintendent Association. And in investigating what it is that they're going to be covering and what it is they generally do cover and push, it is 15 pages right here that I printed out if anybody wants to see it, mainly on equity and justice in education. And there isn't a single page on any of these 15 that aren't talking about equity education, which we all know just basically is a lead to CRT, which could also put us in legal trouble because we're not supposed to be teaching CRT. So why we would send our superintendent there to be indoctrinated. Some of the things on here that it's talking about is what is the role of superintendents in equity outcomes, teacher hiring and recruitment, equity contracts awarded. What about systemic barriers in achievement? If you're not focused on equity, this role is not for you. Program and policy ideas to improve outcomes for children of color. So that's just a little bit right there of what this is based on. So to quote Daniel Dominic, who's the executive director of AASA, the School Superintendent Association, and just please forgive me, I'm not going to read the whole thing because I only have 3 minutes, but some key points here. He says, our mission clearly states our commitment to equity, a core element of all work that we do. Equity is central to the work of superintendents and the school systems they lead. I didn't know that equity was the core. Now is the time for all educational leaders to intensify our commitment to address inequities and work to dismantle the systemic racism. I would like to say, how can we judge someone's economic worth as it assumes people like me, people of color, you might not know that, are less than, as if our parents didn't know how to make sure we got a good education. You will often hear it said that equity is not about serving one group to the detriment of another. This, of course, is a lie. It is utterly about group equality, which requires individual injustice. America was rooted in equality and freedom. Equity requires freedom to be curbed. It's therefore a national tragedy to watch equality of rights abandoned in favor of equity. If freedom is discarded to achieve equality of outcome, we no longer live in America as defined by the Declaration of Independence. We live in America defined by tribalism and leveling, and in short order, tyranny. What will your legacy be in your roles? Are you going to stand by and be the ones that open the door to this? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Are there any questions or comments by the board? Mrs. Fisher?
I understand where individuals come from when they see some of these conferences. And I have attended many ASBA conferences, both local and national. And I do agree sometimes what they are pushing is counter to what most parents would want for their kids. But I really struggle with telling Dr. Finch that he can't go, because when I've gone, I have attended some of these courses and I have openly called BS on some of it. I have been able to notice when things are, it's like, okay, you're telling us this, but this is what's factual. And I don't know what Dr. Finch would do at the conference. Maybe he would suck it all up and enjoy it, but maybe he won't. Maybe he will look at what they're saying and say, okay, but this is how that is impacting kids in my district. Maybe he could inspire another superintendent to not support the divisive parts, because honoring all races does not mean you have to be divisive. You know, I get all the time that what would I know? I'm a stupid white girl, or I'm a gringa, or I'm whatever. They don't know that I'm Hispanic because I don't have the right color. But unless we give him the opportunity to at least find out what is happening on the national level, and then bring it back and share it with us, he may share it and we may say that's total bull and we support that. But he may not. And contractually, we are required to allow him to have professional development. I don't know that there's any other professional development for him available. And so I want the public to realize that. And I would hope that as the board approves him to go to this, that there is an expectation that he will bring back materials from whatever he attends and we'll send them out to the board. Because we ourselves need to know what's happening on a national level. A lot of the stuff that is offensive to many of the parents in our district, they didn't start during COVID. They didn't start even a year before COVID. I've been watching them go in since 2014 and nobody was speaking up. So I really feel we need him to go because we need him to bring the information back. If you want to do something honestly about it, get on your knees and pray that his heart is open for truth. That's it.
Mrs. Paperman?
As an educator of 18 years, superintendents, principals, teachers, we have attended professional development training at the superintendent level. First of all, I know if their parents were concerned of any training that a superintendent may attend, but the reality is the governing board is the one that makes the decision and vote what's going to be passed within the district. So I just wanted to clarify that we are the ones that have to vote for anything to be passed.
Mrs. Reed?
during my tenure on the board, I've had the opportunity to attend a handful of different conferences, either online or in person. And I can't tell you that I've been to one conference where I've agreed with 100% of everything that I've heard. When I go to conferences, I go to look and see what breakout sessions are applicable to our district, to the students that are in our demographic. Whether sometimes it's specific to title students. And if I don't know a lot of information about title funding, I might go to that breakout session. Sometimes I go to breakout sessions specifically to find out information on an opposing viewpoint, because I think for me it's important when I'm up here considering policy to understand what both sides have to say. And so if I view it just from my lens, I'm not taking into consideration what some other parents and teachers and students might be viewing it from. So I can't speak for how Dr. Finch attends conferences, but I wanted to put that out there, that I don't think any of us have gone to conferences and we agree, 100%. But my viewpoint is I take what I can and I bring it back and I leave the rest. But I think it's important for Dr. Finch to weigh in on why he might want to go, why that's important to him.
Dr. Finch?
Everything that everyone has said is true. Yes, you don't go to every session because you can't. So you pick and choose the ones that help your district. But yes, you also look for opposing viewpoints and why they are thinking that way. This is my 23rd year as a superintendent, and I've been to 23 conferences that are the same type of conference, the superintendent conference. It is the national scale, the national perspective, and it's important for your superintendent to be plugged in at the national level to know where things are heading, because obviously, as one gentleman said, we have a lot of students, a lot of staff, 32,000 and 4,000 staff. And so it's an important job to be connected, be not only to your legislature and your legislative branches, but also your community. There's many parts of the job. One part that is important is that I stay in tune. So what is happening, and you learn a lot of this from your conferences.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. Mrs. Ordway, are you good? All right. We will call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Is that 5 ayes? Passes unanimously. Next item.
That the governing board approve the superintendent's 2021-2022 performance pay goals.
I second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Fisher?
I remain concerned that this board has not held a meeting to elect to take an alternative to what is in statute. And I know that the belief is because the prior contract had information about it that we don't have to. I still disagree. I also believe that it is very concerning that the presentation and the discussion about all this was done in an executive session, because I don't believe it is something that should have been done in an executive session, per the Attorney General's opinion that was provided. That is my take on it. I will seek further clarity, but I am concerned. I've said it before that I'm concerned that there are no deliverables for the superintendent himself. And I am concerned because, this is a large amount of money. We don't, teachers don't get to just say, hey, I'm going to pick my top 10 students and what their grades are, that's mine. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And I'm very concerned about these. I'm concerned that the law is not being followed. I will follow up, but I cannot support goals You know, perhaps had we had that large discussion in public and our public could have been a part of that strategic planning session, maybe the community would have expressed that we should support that. But without transparency, I just can't support these goals.
Any other comment? So I'm going to say that we did approve in a public meeting with his contract an attachment that says we followed an alternative strategic or a performance plan for a superintendent. Additionally, upon legal advice, we did hold the previous session in an executive session regarding these performance plan goals. We are here in a public meeting as we have been in the past years, not just with this superintendent, but in previous superintendents, to approve these goals where the public could provide feedback to them. In addition, all board members had an opportunity to review the materials prior to the previous meeting and also provide input if they wanted some changes to these. Dr. Finch, did we receive any feedback on these after the last meeting?
None after the last meeting.
Okay. So do you have any comments?
No, it's standard. Again, this is my 23rd year of doing this. This is very common. I actually appreciate this format. This came out of Jenny Frank, former board member. This format and approach, and it was a nice team effort. Our strategic plan is built on community input, and this comes from that. So we're in the 5th year of our strategic plan. We'll be starting a new one the following year.
Yes, I do appreciate you reminding me of that because these are built off of our strategic plan. And in my first few years as a school board member, the performance pay goals were not what I would call SMART goals. They didn't have specific deliverables always that we could measure. So I think that is important that we did change to that format, and this is a nice way to look at different aspects of our strategic plan, including assisting our students in their learning, especially those who we don't normally haven't focused on in a goal. So with that, I will call for Mrs. Reed.
I just wanted to clarify something that my previous board members had said. In this meeting and in previous meetings, Mrs. Fisher has brought up concerns that we were violating statute in having the performance pay goals like this. And so tonight we did have an executive session with legal counsel to bring up Mrs. Fisher's questions, and the legal counsel that was provided to us said that we are not violating statute. So,
Ms. Reed, you're violating you're violating an executive session by coming out here and discussing what was in the executive session. If we want to discuss it, we can discuss the whole thing, but I don't think that's legal. I would prefer this whole discussion be done in public, and that's what I've said.
We received legal advice prior to this evening that was not an executive session that said we were following the statute. There is. I'm happy to, Dr. Finch will provide you the legal advice that we received prior to that.
I have it. It has the AG opinion attached to it, and it talks about transparency. I will be seeking additional clarification from the Attorney General.
That's fine. You can.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The motion passes 4-1. Is that correct? Thank you. Item E.
I would move that we approve the guaranteed maximum price for construction of the Innovation Center project.
I second.
Mr. Miglerino.
President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch. I will attempt to be somewhat brief, but I do want to share some information about this because this is a unique project for us. And we have shared a great deal of information about it, but it's been over a long period of time. We did provide some additional information for the board just to give you that historical perspective. It is in board docs if you need to reference any of the previous information that we have shared with you. The purpose of the Innovation Center, and just kind of a little bit of history, this was actually formulated with the 2019 bond committee. So that committee started in year 2018 and came up with an idea of having an innovation center. I will tell you, because I led that committee, they did not predict a pandemic. They did not predict the growth of our online program back in 2018. So what was conceived at that point was really a much smaller project than what we are bringing forward to you this evening. But it is a place because we have been an online provider, originally called Arizona Online Provider, or actually originally called TAPI, years of acronyms, but essentially we were one of the 7 initial districts in the state providing online services or online coursework for students. And so this was a place for that program to kind of blossom. Again, never was it considered that it would be the size that we're projecting with this particular project. But it was part of that bond initiative. This gives us a little bit of the rationale for why. We have nearly 500 full-time students that have elected for what we now call Aspire. And so if you take into account our part-time students, that number would be in excess of 700 students. So this has become its own school. Again, that was not part of what was initially envisioned, but that is what it has become. It also, part of the original thoughts of an innovation center was to be able to provide some space to be able to innovate, to be able to have opportunities for gatherings, whether that's professional development, whether it's gatherings for students in a hybrid model, where they may be taking classes online and need to congregate on occasion for certain project-based learning, things of that nature. So that was what that part of the project was originally envisioned. So kind of what is the project? So we have a building that's located here at the district office. So this is kind of a map that shows the district office here. I kind of blew up the in the cloud there, the area that actually we're talking about. It's what we refer to as our old warehouse or our old annex. That represents about the large space or the large square that you see there is about just over 14,000 square feet. The small area to the left of that, or actually to the west, is just about 2,500 square feet. That would be some office space. So in total, about 16,500 square feet, a little more than that being envisioned. This space was being underutilized. Well, actually, it was probably being overutilized, but for some of the wrong reasons. It became what I refer to affectionately as our junk drawer. So we were using it for storage, and you can kind of see what this looked like. It does not look like this today. So the area has been cleaned up. There was a great deal of effort from many people to be able to clear out this, and basically there was a lot of neglect. Things were taken out there. Nobody followed up with them. They just stayed out there for years, and so it just really forced us to kind of go through that junk drawer and throw out those coupons that had expired. Or maybe that's what happens at my junk drawer in my house. But so this is what the architect that we partnered with has kind of envisioned for us. So that's this same space that I was showing before. Some large open areas for flexible space to be able to be used for multiple multiple functions, multiple events. A large learning stair kind of in the center that you see off at an angle. We'll show some pictures of that. There are some additional restrooms that'll be required per the code that are behind the stairs. Some learning labs or collaboration space as I'm working my way around. And then a lot of open office areas. With the 700 students that we're serving with Aspire, we have about 43 staff members that are working full-time at that school now. So they need a home. They need a place to be able to perform the work that they're doing. We are proposing this to be open office space, so not necessarily a designated office for each of those staff members, depending on their role in the Aspire school, but a place where they can hang a hat, come in, take care of some of the work that they need to do, and then do the work that we're assigning to them. There will be, this kind of just an overview of the reflective ceiling plan. Basically, the large open area that you see here is going to be up to the roof, the existing ceiling height. Then there's some lower ceiling that is part of the, to accentuate the learning stairs and to finish off the office areas. We are expanding the mezzanine. There is a second floor, if you will, to this building. And we originally thought we would build this out for various needs, but due to some budget constraints, we're considering to add the additional second floor, but not necessarily build it out. So it'll be available for us in a future phase. One of the things that we had to consider with this project, as we had to do likewise with Elementary 32, is that we will be considering that this will be part of what we call Phase 1, which would probably be the major phase improvements for this particular project. Phase 2 would include potentially building out the second floor, the mezzanine. It's not a super high ceiling height on the second floor. So there's some of that is reserved for storage because some of our junk drawer stuff has to go back, required by the Library of Archives retention requirements. But the part of the area in the center of the building, because of the pitch of the roof, does provide for an opportunity for us to have some usable space up there as well for other purposes. This just kind of what the floor is going to look like. Most of the floor is going to be polished concrete with carpet in the office areas just for acoustical reasons. And just gives you kind of a flavor for how the spaces could be broken up. The dark line that you see it's actually going from east to west or west to east, that it adjoins the learning stairs. That's an operable wall that would allow for kind of a visual barrier between the two spaces if it needed to be partitioned in some way for more than one activity happening at the same time. This just gives you a sense of some of the finishes that the architect is suggesting. This does not mean that this is what the carpet will look like. As a reminder, I don't pick colors for the district, thankfully, because I'm effectively colorblind, so I couldn't even tell you what those colors really look like. These are some of the finishes on the other devices, the pendant lights, things of that nature. Again, more conceptual, but just to give you some ideas, brilliant colors, trying to bring some life to what is really a giant, square box. Here are some, I think the next two pictures are just conceptual renderings of the space. This is as you would be walking in. We're showing two options here. The colored picture in the center of the screen actually has like a reception desk potential. So if there was an event, somebody could man that desk. We're not really thinking that it would be a position that we would fill. But if there was an event, that we could then have that be the host station, if you will. The alternative is the black and white image to the right, which is kind of just an information, cubby, where you would be able to present a sign to be able to tell people, direct people which way to go. And then that would just allow a little more space for the other offices in the actual building itself. This is kind of a conceptual rendering of the learning stairs that I mentioned. So you actually would go up the stairs on the far right. You can see it's 2 steps for each of those stairs. So this is a large area for people to kind of congregate and watch presentation without having to set up and take down lots of furniture. And you can see the reflective ceiling here kind of then helping with some of the acoustics as well. Not shown in this picture in front of the stairs is a display wall where we would expect that a lot of the images would be displayed for whatever activity was happening. There's some furniture off to the side. Again, that's not part of the construction. The projects that are what I refer to as instruction-related projects in the 2019 bond are listed here. So you can see the Innovation Center listed at the last item there at $1 million. That is not enough to be able to renovate that building just in today's market, and basically because, again, the scope has changed dramatically from when this was first envisioned in 2018. So what we are proposing this evening and asking for the board to formally consider is a $2.5 million GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, with Chase Building Team being the partner to build this. In order to effectively get that $2.5 million, the virtual reality lab money that is included in the bond would be actually reapportioned to this particular project, and then $1 million of the library media center improvements. You can see there's a $10 million line item for that, would be reapportioned to this project to be able to account for the $2.5 million. Again, that's the construction dollars for this particular project itself. On the far right is the detail of all of the costs associated with this. This just lists the timeline and just kind of, I think what's more important here, just the history. I wanted to recognize Dr. Galligan and her team for helping kind of create this vision. When we first listed the Innovation Center, I really wasn't sure what that meant. And, it was more of a name than the functionality. But through her efforts with the committee, they have really refined what the expectations are for this space. I think the most important part on this slide is kind of the next steps. Pending the board's decision this evening, we would begin construction in early September, and we are targeting to have the work completed by January. I normally don't like to put the year, just the month. That way I get some flexibility, about 12 months or so. But somehow I think maybe Dr. Galligan got a hold of the slide, and it actually has a year on there. So we'll be bound to try and finish this on a pretty short time frame to be able to get it completed by this coming January. One of the things that I wanted to mention, I touched on it earlier, this is kind of a phased approach, again, due to the climate that we're seeing in the marketplace when it comes to construction. This is what we consider phase one. We only have a very small allowance for exterior improvements to the building, so most of what's going to be visually improved will be on the inside of the building, where the functionality will be most important. But we do anticipate that there will be additional needs based on how we see the program grow. Remember, we weren't expecting the growth this fast, so we're not also quite sure what to expect for the upcoming year or years for our Aspire school. But as it grows, we do anticipate that there will be additional phases to make improvements and refine this, but not on the same scale that we're talking about with this phase one being the largest phase at $2.5 million. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board have before you decide.
Mrs. Ordway? Mrs. Paperman?
So this camp is for online students. Is it for particular grade level or for all grade levels?
President O'Brien, Ms. Paperman, yes, it would serve all grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay, and would parents that have concern with students to be in person in a classroom with X amount of students, would it be different if they had the option to put them online?
If I understand your question, this would allow the continued option that exists this year for parents to choose a full-time online program for their child beyond just even this year or a
Okay.
decision that they made.
Okay, so that's great that they will have that option too. Thank you.
And I think I just want to add, just to give credit to Dr. Galligan and her team, that's thanks to the fact that we have been creating our own online curriculum to be able to continue to offer that to our students and as a choice for parents.
Mrs. Fisher?
What happens if enrollment tanks? Do we have an alternative purpose? Are we gonna maybe have an alternative school if it would?
So if I heard your question, what happens if Aspire tanks? Is that what you said?
Because we never know. I mean, parents love something one moment and then they decide they don't. We don't really know. So do we have an alternative purpose for the building? Is there a program that we could use it for or put in there? I personally think Aspire will do great. Online is kind of the future. It's what colleges do, but these are taxpayer dollars. I just want to know if we have a contingent plan.
Yeah, President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, that's a great question. So the majority of the space is kind of reserved as being flexible open space. Again, the large square, about 14,000 square feet. So that could always be used for professional development, for even for smaller gatherings in some of the collaboration space. That's not really our intended purpose. Again, because we've had an online presence for decades now, there will be some small need for that program to have a home, even if it's not on the scale that we see today with nearly 700 students, combined full-time and part-time students. But even in a year that was not a pandemic, I think we've had several hundred part-time students that have participated in our online program. So there's going to be some of the office space that's going to be necessary, and I think our career and technical education folks are slated to also move out to this particular facility because of some of the needs that they have for a large space to be able to do some of
so
their.
we're putting CTE in there also, because CTE is going to be, in my opinion, our future. It's going to grow. I mean, I don't know why it stopped growing. It was very popular in the 80s, and somehow it died, and now it's going to become popular again. But at least I just wanted to make sure we had, because we never know what the trends are going to be.
Point well taken.
Mrs. Reed?
I know we haven't discussed it yet, but soft costs for furniture and things like that, do we have an idea of where that's coming from and what that might cost?
So I'm sorry, and President O'Brien, Ms. Reed, thank you for bringing me back to this slide. So we did make a note here. I think we'll have a good sense of what the soft costs would be because we already have the contract with the architect. But in terms of special systems, we do envision that there will probably be some specific special systems, audiovisual, sound, things, display boards and things of that nature that are going to be unique to this space. We are looking at an alternative funding source, so that would not be funded from the bond for the special systems as well as for the furniture. We have not made any decisions regarding the furniture. The architect has provided some ideas that they have in mind, and I'll be honest with you, I think that they're unaffordable. So I think we're looking for more function than some of the flair, but nonetheless, we do think that there are alternative funding sources that would not come from the 2019 bond, so we're not looking to make any other adjustments to the bond allocation that's here. And then this does, because I was remiss in sharing this, the committee that helped formulate what the Innovation Center looks at and is also helping us with the instruction-related projects did actually see this same presentation and vote we're in agreement with the adjustments to the bond allocations that would be necessary to be able to afford the $2.5 million. But no additional bond allocation changes are necessary to be able to fund this because those soft costs or the special systems and furniture needs are going to be funded from a source outside of the bond.
Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion or questions, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, that passed unanimously. Wonderful. Item 7A is the proposed political agenda for school year 2022. This will come before the board for a vote at our next meeting. The Arizona School Boards Association is made up of member school districts across the state. Each each school district elects or assigns one of their board members as the district's delegate to attend this meeting and vote on behalf of their school district as a member. So collectively, the school district members from all over the state come together in September at the delegate assembly to vote on the 2022 political agenda. Each item is voted on individually, and this board at the next meeting will discuss and vote how to give our board member, who is Mrs. Julie Reed, direction in voting at the delegate assembly. Generally speaking, in the past, I know that Mrs. Fisher has served as the delegate, as have Mrs. Ordway and myself served in that capacity. We generally allow them to vote on the items for the district as they come up, unless there's something we've specifically addressed ahead of time. Are there any items that board members wish to specifically discuss this evening, or would you like to wait until next week when we vote? Or sorry, next meeting, not next week.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes, Mrs. Reed.
Rachel, you're here? Okay. So the way that the political agenda gets made, so I can't remember how many board meetings ago it was, but several board meetings back, we came up with a list of what Deer Valley's board thought were the most important things when it came to submitting these to ASBA. And then ASBA has a legislative council made up of member districts, representatives of member districts from all over the state, and they take all of the input from the individual school districts or school boards, and they come up with the draft political agenda. And then at the meeting in September, we'll vote, and the things that pass go on the actual political agenda. And then the Arizona School Board Association will lobby on behalf of the school districts in the state for those important things. So that's what this whole document is.
Thank you for that further explanation. Mrs. Reed is correct, and I believe it was in May we voted on the top 5 items with a couple of alternates to send to the legislative committee, which is made up of member districts that represent all the districts across the state, large, small, up north from south, east to west, so that we have a wide variety of representation at that meeting. In addition, Mrs. Fisher has sat on that committee, as have I, and that political agenda, the draft political agenda, is decided there by a majority of the committee members voting for it. So Are there any other comments? Okay, this will be back in,
To discuss it when it comes back item by item, because there's no point in talking about them now if we're going to discuss them next time item by item or line by line.
we've never done that to go item by item. I would,
Okay.
in the past, oh, sorry.
Then the only one I want to, just bring up, well, there's several. I think little by little I've watched over the years as this agenda has no longer really become the voice of most school boards. It's become the voice of a few school board members in each district. When I was first elected in 2014, I kind of thought Ron was being a little bit of a turd, just always talking about the need for the three, for having the three. But it's not just having the three for the superintendent. It goes all the way up into ASBA. And there are governing boards in Arizona that are currently looking to bring an alternative to ASBA and move away from ASBA because the agenda has completely changed over even just the last 4 years. It's changed significantly. I did serve on that committee, and I resigned from that committee because it was clear I was the token conservative, and my voice really had no bearing at the time. I am a little concerned about some of these issues that are counter to what our public would want, and that our public really has no input whatsoever on this agenda. Everybody, I'm sure, reads through this and expects me to pick on items that are specific to certain individuals or whatever, but that serves no real purpose. What does serve purpose is that taxpayers pay money in their taxes to fund schools. And that money is used to pay our membership into ASBA. And I know none of us get paid for what we do. And there are some really good classes that we've had at ASBA. There really are some good things, but that agenda is really changing. And I'm concerned that we have no way to get public input on these items. It's not in the committee, it's not in the future, and it's tax dollars that are being paid to go to ASBA, and that's what ends up becoming the money, even though it goes through 4 or 5, however many different stages it originated as a tax dollar, and it ends up becoming lobbying money against our public. So I'm just a little concerned. I don't know that we have a way to solve it, but that's my concern as we bring it forward if we're not going to go through the items. But I don't know what the answer to that is. It just,
Certainly, we could go through item by item. I think that it would probably be more time worthy for, members who have issues with certain items to bring those forward to the meeting when we're voting. If there are items that you disagree with that we need to have a separate discussion on, then I would recommend you bring those to discuss when we vote.
they post this on our personal pages or whatever. I would like public input, and if no public has input, I won't bring them back.
Hold
if
on.
they do, I will.
So this is it available in board docs for the public to see? So it is already available for them to see. So if somebody wants to read this, so I do want to disagree with the statement that just a couple of boards have input into this. There are 213, I believe that's number approximately, sometimes 213, 216, sometimes I mess that number up, school districts in the state of Arizona. And off the top of my head, I don't remember this year how many are represented on this committee, but it is not 2 or 3 or 4. And there is great effort made to ensure that there is representation from, like I said, large districts, small districts, districts from all across the state, rural districts, suburban districts, and that members that participate in that committee have all kinds of lenses, including conservatives. I happen to know that you weren't just the token conservative on that committee, because we served together as well as other Republicans did. So it is an unfair characteristic to say that this agenda is decided by just a couple of boards. In addition, at the delegate assembly, where each and every district is invited to send their delegate to it, again, that would be approximately 213 school boards that could send their delegate. And while not all 213 attend, it is not, again, 3 or 4 voting to decide what this agenda is. So with that, we will bring back whatever items are of concern to discuss. We will not go line item by line item. If you have something as a board member that you have concerns about, please bring it to the next meeting when we will vote on it. The next board item is governing board reports, and we will start with Mrs. Paperman.
First, I would like to welcome the Deer Valley educators coming back the first week last week. I attended my first week this week, so I was kind of nervous on Monday receiving my students, but now excited I'm getting to know them. I also would like to say, as a parent and even as a teacher, I know, we have parents, 50%, of parents mask on. We need to focus on our kids' education. Our students feel what we feel. We need to make sure that we move forward for the future, because I truly believe that COVID is probably not going to be the first, and it's not going to. So it's going to depend on the education that we give our kids in order for them to become grown-ups and make good decisions. Because I know with our experience dealing with COVID, it just has divided our community. So I just pray that the community, parents, and everyone to come together for our students' sake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Paperman. Mrs. Fisher?
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't lose my voice. And I'll apologize in advance because I have allergies. First, I want to welcome everyone to the 21-22 school year. It has been wonderful to see the pictures of the first day. I did them with my kids, and I love seeing the parents that do them. Even cuter, there was a few teachers who put their first day picture out, and that was kind of cute too. It gives hope that there can be a very successful year. Of course, with the start of school also comes issues and concerns. Specifically regarding 2 companies, Panorama and Castle. And I would have sent this concern in advance, but the response I got back from someone was that it isn't CRT. We don't teach CRT. Shut up about CRT. You're spreading misinformation in a nutshell. Ironically, the question that the parents have had nothing to do with CRT. But that made me look at these 2 companies, and I hope we have a conversation about these companies in the future. The question that was brought by the parents to me is they're concerned that they're being asked to sign a blanket permission for surveys that are being done without knowing what's on the survey. They're not comfortable with that. And I don't know that anything bad has ever come out of a Deer Valley survey. I know other districts posted questions that were like, do your parents have alcohol in the house? Do they have guns? Do they have stuff like that? And I don't know that we would ask those questions. I don't know. But I think parents from other areas scare our parents, and they want to know, why would I sign a blanket, you can ask my kids survey. So I would like to know, for the parents' sake, is there a way that they can see what questions are being asked in advance? Do we have input? Does Deer Valley have input on what questions are asked? And if so, can we make that to where the parents are more aware? Because that was the big concern with the parents and these surveys.
Can I just clarify? I just, a survey or the worksheet? Because there were two things that emails came in on, surveys and worksheets.
This has nothing to do with the emails. The public's not aware. We have received a ton of emails from one parent group that sent emails. Okay, this has nothing to do with those emails. These are parents who brought direct concerns to me about, their concern was signing a permission slip for their student to receive a survey when they did not know what would be on the survey. And I don't have an answer for them. Do we have input? Is there someplace they can get the survey so that they're more comfortable signing it? Is by signing that they're allowing any survey? And these are answers that I would have sent to the district had I been able to. So I think that's it, pretty much. What control do we have, and can they find it? Secondly, is a concern that was brought, and this is probably what spurred all the emails, so take it for what it is. There is a concern about the blanket asking of pronouns. I understand that some may wish to be addressed differently, but putting it in for everyone is just, and I do believe it's a form of grooming or normalizing a belief that not everybody shares. This push started a long time ago, and it's been kind of coming through ASBA. I was asked to what my pronouns were back in 2015. I was like, whatever, not appropriate. But one of the concerns, which I don't actually have written here, so I can just say, is as I received all the emails of, oh my God, you're horrible, that why would you be upset that a teacher would ask a child for their pronoun, and how your LGBTQ prejudice or whatever. You don't know anything about my life, but shame on anyone who wants to ask a sixth grader that question on a survey in a class. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm speaking specifically to the sixth grader class that did it. Because when a lot of the parents that came to me with questions, they found out about it because their kids came home and they said, oh my God, we got this paper, and yeah, we circled both and we were laughing at it. Or I put teddy bear and I was laughing. And so these kids, you're in a classroom full of kids. And when there is a child in that classroom that really does have a concern about gender identity, gender dysphoria, or whatever, they are going to hear all these other kids making fun of this survey, and they are not going to speak up. They are going to wither. Because as the other kids are joking around, they don't want to say, hey, wait a minute, that's me. Hey, wait a minute. So I think it's more damaging in the sixth grade. The concern that the parents brought long before the broadcast to email the board how horrible Miss Fisher is for listening to the other parents, their concern was mostly that it was in a high school document that was required and that all students were required to answer it. They didn't have an option of just saying, I choose not to answer. And regardless of what you think of the issue, the fact is that to respect our children, they should be able to opt out of answering that question. And they should not have it publicly done. Deer Valley has never, as far as I know, discriminated against a child for anything in their life, whether it's their orientation or their color or their disability, or I have never seen Deer Valley discriminate against a child. And to say that we're discriminatory by not asking this question, I think it's problematic. We're not teaching proper English, for one. You have he, she, and they is a plural of who they are. Every time we have had a student who needed arrangements at whatever school, at whatever level, to provide all supports possible to that student without calling them out, without exposing them, without making this about an adult's wish to make it an open thing. I don't know that some of the people who want to support this have ever met a transgender person or stood by them, as they have gone through a hell of a lot. And some may change their mind, they may hit puberty and things will change, but this is a parent conversation, not a district conversation. And so I'm requesting that we discuss this with our community and adjust. If the community really thinks this is appropriate to ask all kids, well, then we need to armor our parents, the ones that don't think it's appropriate. And if nothing else, they need to tell their kids, whatever you do, don't laugh at this, don't make fun of this, don't joke around like any sixth grader does. Because that one kid who really does identify differently, they don't need all the other kids joking about it. So we need to talk to our parents, whichever group, but we need to talk to them. Additionally, I received concerns that parents are asked to sign the acceptance of the handbook, but there is a potential for it to be updated specifically with COVID procedures. Will the parents be asked to acknowledge the changes? And if not, what is the plan since the acceptance was prior to the changes? That's a direct question. So however that can be answered. I got a question about records. Where can a parent get a record of their medical exemption being denied? They have gone to the school, which sent them to the district office. They were told that the records were at the school by the district office. Not sure I understand the reason for the runaround, but I do believe we need to be transparent, and there should be some sort of a paper trail if a paper was submitted. So if we can get to our parent, who can the parent be directed to? Is there one individual or one department or something where they can be directed to? And is there one area that all the forms for exceptions were submitted? And is that where they would be now? If they are to be at the school, the parents would like to know that. I am trying to make sense of the masking in our transportation. I know we've all received emails regarding the transportation. We were told it was federal by the Department of Transportation. But as I've been looking into it, it says Executive Order 13998 directs the heads of agencies to require masks to the extent appropriate and consistent with the applicable law in or on all forms of public transportation, defined in 49 U.S.C. 5302. School bus operations are specifically accepted from this statutory definition of public transportation. The TSA security directive likewise does not include school bus operations in the mask mandate. However, they refer you to the CDC order that applies to school buses. So I followed the trail to the CDC, which is not a lawmaking body, it's an agency, it's a government agency. And it said, when you look at our masks required on the bus, it says passengers and drivers must wear a mask on a school bus, including on buses operated by public and private schools, subject to the exclusion and exemption in the CDC order. Operators of school buses should refer to the Department of Education for guidance. And it gives you a link to go to the Department of Education. When you're looking at the Department of Education, it says, other than statutory regulatory requirements referred to in this document, the contents of this guidance do not have force and effect of law and do not bind the public. This document is intended only to provide clarity to the public regarding existing requirements under the law or agency policy. Well, then we look at the state budget that passed, and it says, under COVID policies, prohibits retroactive, and that's the key word, retroactive, to July 1, 2021, a county, city, town, school district governing board, or charter school governing body from requiring student staff to use face coverings during school hours on school property. Prohibit school districts or charters from requiring student teachers to receive the vaccine or wear face coverings to participate in in-person instruction. So now we've come full circle. The fact is that the school bus is district property. Just like when our teachers want to put a sign on their car, we can't stop them, it's their property. The school bus is the district's property. And I am seeking an explanation from our administration on how we are not following the law that was passed and is retroactive to July 1, when all the agencies that they say we should be following say something different. So I would like clarification on that. We do have students who, and I don't know that this is necessarily regarding the laws, but one of the major complaints was that the kids can't breathe on the bus that does not have adequate air conditioning when Arizona is hotter than snot in the afternoon. I know sometimes we can't stop the buses from being hot, so I don't know if that's necessarily a mask portion, but it's that. Openly, my concerns about open meeting violations. I believe that we should be operating as transparent as possible. Unfortunately, transparency doesn't seem to be a priority. I believe, this is me, this is not the board as a whole, I am speaking from my belief. I believe that our parents deserve full transparency to the greatest extent possible. I will be seeking to add clarity to this topic from sources not internal to the district. And I think that it is very important that we do start honoring our parents and transparency. Finally, in our meeting in January, I noted the closed parent groups. That was the sole voice being listened to in the district. And I asked that we have our own site of full open information. The other parent group as well has since become a private group. And it's closed also. The division in the district, and sadly in our community, is growing. I want to encourage the district to please listen to all parents. These children are theirs, and we are privileged to have them in our district. They don't have to choose us, but public schools offer a lot, and sometimes that's why parents choose us. We have to find some way to reunite our communities. And I don't know what the answer is. Anything I say is automatically, I don't know, one group or another. But I'm not staying, and I know people are going to laugh. Well, she's not staying silent anymore. I'm not. Years ago, I put up with, tethering back what I said a little bit because of, I said BS in public and it went postal across the nation. And so I kind of hushed up a little bit as others formed friendships with that individual. And I regret doing it. I should have. I sat in a board meeting and I said there's problems with an individual having students on their social media. And then I backed off out of fear of retaliation. I don't care, retaliate. But this district belongs to these parents. And I just think that we need to start honoring our parents. No more backdoor conversations, no more behind the scenes. And if there's something that's valid, then we inform them as to why it's valid. Because I don't believe that individuals come to work to do something wrong. Our teachers are awesome. 99.9% of the time, our students are awesome. But when they get that pressure, they're subject to peer pressure too. And when they cave because of it, it's our fault because we allowed it. That's just my opinion. Thanks.
Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. I'd just like to welcome back all of our staff and our students for the 21-22 school year. I know my kids had a great first week of school and, almost halfway through the second week. The best thing that my fourth grader said was he loved switching classes because it made the day go by a lot faster. So he's enjoying being departmentalized. So we have some good wins in our house. I did send Dr. Finch a couple of emails regarding some concerns and questions that parents had. And so I just want to address them because one of them was similar to what Mrs. Fisher said, but the panorama survey form on there, it linked back to ARS. Sorry, I have it up here. It linked back to statute. And in that statute, it had a list of 14 different topics that school districts could survey parents on, and it was very broad and, in my opinion, really outside of the scope of what any school district should be or could be asking parents. And so my request was that we clarify to parents what the survey types are going to be that we're sending, and that also prior to the surveys going out, that they're sent to the board so the board can look over the questions. And then in section J of ARS 15-117, there's six points that parents can email and ask for clarification from the district on, and I would just ask that the district be proactive and just provide that information beforehand in an email to parents prior to those surveys being sent out. It's very basic stuff. The dates on which they'll be administered, the name of the survey, how much time is going to take to administer it, the type of information that's collected, and the reasons for administrating the survey. Mrs. Moffett, would you be willing to provide how many teachers are teaching 6/5 this year? I know there were quite a few in the staffing update, but I think we have already approved some of those, so if you wouldn't mind doing that. And then I did also send Dr. Finch an email asking about how many classes we've closed so far with COVID. I think there's a lot of information that's going out on social media, and people are concerned about the exposure of COVID and how we're handling it. And I think there's a misconception that all of the safety precautions that we put in place last year are suddenly out the door. And so I don't know how to disseminate that information any clearer to parents, but maybe in a parent update, it might be wise to list all of the mitigation efforts that we are currently using one more time. I do know that there have been some questions regarding contract tracing. that the district may or may not be doing, and the partnership between county health and the district. And I think Dr. Zerbach, a few board meetings ago, you had specifically mentioned that, and that the county had said that they would take over that, and that they were going to be fully staffed and their program would be up. And so it would be helpful to know if that's happening. I did have a parent say that they were notified that they had an exposure, but by the time they got notified, they would have already been on day 5 of their quarantine. And had they'd been notified sooner, they would have chosen to quarantine their student in their home. And so I know that we aren't mandating quarantines, but I do want to make sure that the families that do wish to quarantine have that information as soon as possible, so they feel like they are protecting their family and making the best choice for themselves. And we did get quite a few emails, I would say upwards of in the hundreds, about masks. Either way, they want masks or they don't want masks mandated. And masking is it is a choice. And I know that somebody had referenced Washington Elementary School District, that they did a mask mandate with an opt-out form, which I think is similar to what we're doing right now with making masks optional. For my family personally, my kids are wearing masks in school because we're taking their brother to college next week, and we can't afford to get any type of illness prior to taking him to school, because if he comes to school showing symptoms, he'll be quarantined. And so that's something that's unique to our family, and that our family has bought into, and we've decided that's a priority because that's our choice. I know that that's not the choice for everybody, and there's been a lot of "you're morally obligated" statements that have been made, and I get that, and I understand it. I can't legislate people to care about a situation or a circumstance as much as somebody else does. And I know that there's a lot of different levels of care and concern out there, and I am not diminishing any of those, but there's just not a way to do it. If there were, then I would do it for a variety of different things, like homelessness and poverty and all of that, so we could fix everything that's broken in our society. And the last thing, just as an ask, and kind of piggybacking on what Mrs. Fisher said about our communities divided and treating each other with respect, I think that goes for us too, that it's really important. I've had a lot of emails over the last year and a half or 2 years that I've served on the board that have been really mean and that have been really negative, but I didn't engage with those parents, and I didn't say anything inflammatory back to them. That's their right as a constituent to express whatever they feel about me in whatever form they want to. It's hard to read, it's not pleasant, but that's their opinion. But I would just ask that we just continue to treat our community members and our parents with respect, regardless of how they may choose to engage with us, is that we just choose to rise above those negative comments. That's it. Thank you.
Mrs. Ordway?
Oh, I don't know if I can do it that long, but anyway, just kidding. So welcome back, everybody. All the preparations for the welcome back, the jump back days, the camps, the extended school year, getting all those fields in so I can't smell fresh cut grass anymore unless I go to a practice field. The kids were very excited to get back, even kids that don't like school, like the first day of school. So we've had upticks in our COVID-19 journey. We have people that want to wear masks, people that don't. We have children under the age of 12 that have zero choice to be vaccinated. They've been about 2 years without being around a lot of kids. They've been using a lot of hand sanitizers, so their immune systems are a little bit down, I'm sure, and they're bringing all those kid germs back to school like they should. So with all of the information that we have now, I'm going to ask for a special meeting next Tuesday if the boardroom's open and people are available, so we can in-depth go into what our updated mitigation practices are, the latest data from Maricopa County Health Department. I think that a live stream meeting would meet the needs more than just, and not just, I shouldn't have said the word just, but an email or a text or whatever. I think that if we have this in-depth, detailed meeting, the questions can be asked about what we're doing. We can have crew, unless of course you guys are opposed to that or you're busy that Tuesday. So that would be the ask that I have. Would also ask that we treat each other, whether we're masked or not, with some grace and some mercy. You don't know why someone's wearing it. You don't know why someone's not. And we have it within ourselves to do this because we're modeling our behavior for our students. And that's all I have, Mrs. O'Brien. And thank you for the rest of the board for hanging out.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. And I'll quickly reiterate a great big, huge welcome back to all of our staff and students. It's exciting to see our kiddos in schools and see all those great pictures that everybody's posting. And I still get a first day of school picture because I have a daughter who's a teacher, so that's fun. If you could, if someone could please address Ms. Bieber's question regarding why we don't allow parents to walk our kiddos to the classroom. I know that was a policy change a long time ago, and I do believe that it was founded in safety, but I think it's helpful for our folks to understand that, and maybe a reminder to our kindergarten staff who weren't there when that change was made would be probably helpful as well. I think that it is important to understand that many of the districts who did vote to have masks did it with that parent opt-out. And so I highly encourage those who want to wear masks, students, staff, families, please do so. We respect everybody's choices, and there should be no bullying in our schools surrounding that, and I don't believe there is. So please do what is best for your family. In addition, if we could please provide the answers to the questions that you received from our board members tonight in Friday's update, that would be helpful. I have some questions regarding our COVID exposure notification process, but I'll send those to you in an email. I agree with Mrs. Reed that things are changing, and we maybe need a reminder out to our families and our staff about what our policies are and how they've changed or differed from what we were doing last year to this year, and how we're partnering with Maricopa County Public Health Department. And with that, we will get something out about your request, Mrs. Ordway, and check calendars as well as the other meeting requests we had this evening. And with that, Dr. Finch, your superintendent's report.
Sure, thank you. As many of you already know, yes, we are in a new year with new challenges, and COVID has not gone away. You are correct. We do have our hands full. We have, as you know, 3 safety measures that really have tied our hands mainly from the state level. And so we are doing our best and doing a great job. I want to thank my principals and teachers and staff and my admin team here working together with the county working together as a team, trying to do our best. We, as you know, we're getting confusing and different information from the county and the state health department. Both of those entities are not answering our questions like we would like them to. The good news is I think they're making progress as you're seeing different districts make different choices. So we have our safety plan on our website. We actually do parent webinars. We've done one that was watched by thousands. And so we're going to continue to do that. That's one way to communicate with our parents. We also do staff webinars as well. Those are recorded, so you can watch them again if you want to know the different things that we're doing with our safety plan and how we're trying to stay on top of COVID. Yes, we have had a couple outbreaks last week, and those are when 2 or more cases are brought to a classroom. So we've had to close some classrooms. That is true. Much like our NEVIC neighbors, that is also happening around us. And remember, NEVIC is a North Valley group that superintendents that work together, including Scottsdale, Peoria, PV, et cetera, our immediate neighbors that we work with. So they do a nice job working together. I want to also to thank Dr. Galligan on this long journey of bringing her idea to fruition of the Innovation Center, and now the school has really exploded, and we have a full-blown online one that can compete in the marketplace. And so great job to you and your team. I also wanted to, again, thank the parents or staff members that let us know when we have an issue in our system. Many of you go to call your school first or call your principal or email me before you go to Facebook or social media, and we appreciate that because obviously there's a Deer Valley way we handle situations, and we have new staff. We have 4,000 staff members, and guess what? We don't control every single one of them. That's not how we're designed. And so when we hear of an issue, then we address it. And when you can help us out, we appreciate it. And so before you run to social media and say what you thought might have happened, let us know so we can check into the situation, take care of it. That's what happens a lot at the first start of school as we get new staff members and get them used to the Deer Valley way of how we do our business. We are one of, if not the top school district in all of Arizona. We take great pride in that, and we do that as a community, so your help is appreciated. Lastly, but not least, is masks on buses. There was a couple of content references to that. We are taking advice from our attorneys, and it's on the AD website. And so when my attorney says I can do it differently, I will do it differently. But right now, to protect my federal funding, I need to follow federal law. So that's my report. Again, I want to thank all staff, students. Welcome back. We've had a great first week, starting second week. And obviously, the kids are super excited to be back in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. I'm going to take one quick liberty and wish Mrs. Ordway a happy early birthday as she will celebrate tomorrow. So I hope you have a very wonderful day and a fabulous year. And with that, I believe our future meetings are posted, and I will entertain a motion to
Can I make a birthday motion to conclude this meeting?
at 9:37. Yes.
At 9:37. Oh, those are my lucky numbers.
And we have a second for Mrs. Reed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.